The stars hung like silent witnesses above the blue planet, their light indifferent to the approaching fleet. Thousands of warships, sleek and black as void venom, cut through the cold of space with predatory purpose. From the flagship Gravethorn, Commander Sarek leaned over the command dais, his 6 crimson eyes narrowing as Earth grew larger on the main screen. "A backwater world," he said, voice gravel-wrapped steel. "Light years of silence, no resistance to our probes, and barely developed satellites. This will be swift." The bridge crew chittered affirmations, their mandibles clicking in rhythm with protocol. Behind them, the ship's war AI hummed in confident compliance, calculating invasion paths and casualty projections with mechanical arrogance. Sarek turned to strategist Velth. "You've confirmed their defenses?" Velth, thinner and taller than his superior, adjusted the holographic display to show Earth's surface. "Minimal, Commander. Scattered militaries, fractured governments, primitive energy weapons. The humans are uncoordinated and woefully under-equipped." "Then deploy the Daggerfangs. Let the scouts lead. Let us show these mammals what it means to be seen." The order pulsed through the fleet like blood through veins. Dozens of landers peeled off from the armada, descending through Earth's atmosphere in blinding streaks of fire. Their destination, a seemingly deserted plateau in the heart of a mountain range, the perfect place to establish a forward outpost. It was perfect because it was bait. On the surface, hidden beneath layers of rock and electromagnetic fog, Sergeant Elena Voss lay prone on a ridge, binoculars fixed on the descending craft. The air smelled of cold stone and ionized wind. Her armor, matte black and silent as death, adapted to the terrain with subtle shifts in texture. Around her, 5 others, each part of Scout Unit Echo, waited, watching. "Confirmation," Voss whispered into her throat mic. "Visuals on Xel'Zorr troop carriers. Estimate, 3 platoons, armored. Recommend engagement." A voice responded, low and crackling. "Echo, proceed. Standard containment. Avoid civilian exposure." "Copy." They moved like shadows stitched to motion. No grand theatrics, no heroic declarations. Just deliberate, silent work. In 5 minutes, the first alien squad was dead, disintegrated with pulse knives or crumpled by gravity grenades. The Xel'Zorr were ready for battle. They were not ready for ghosts. One of the aliens, still breathing through torn lungs, managed to trigger a distress beacon. His 3 hearts stuttered out just as Voss reached him. She stared at him without speaking, let him see her eyes through the mask slit, cold, focused, human. Let him see that death had a face. Back aboard the Gravethorn, the bridge was quiet. The initial reports were wrong. Casualties were high. Whole squads unresponsive. The only footage retrieved showed flickers, blurred humanoid shapes, impossible speed, weapons their databases couldn't recognize. Veltha's expression had shifted from certainty to unease. "This doesn't match the projections." Sarek's fingers curled into a fist. "Clarify. Minimal heat signatures. No large-scale troop movements. Just 6 hostiles, Commander. All the damage came from them." Sarek's silence was loud. "You're saying a scout unit decimated our advance force?" Velth hesitated. "Yes." The weight of the words settled over the command deck like a dropped stone in still water. Technicians glanced up from their consoles. The war AI paused for recalibration. "That's impossible," someone muttered. No one corrected them. Sarek's voice sliced the tension. "Send another wave. Twice the size. I want one of them captured." Below, in the mountain shadows, Voss wiped the blood from her blade. Her squad regrouped in a natural cave, sealing the entrance with a local camouflage field. Wounds were assessed, rebreathers adjusted. They spoke little. They didn't need to. Then came the next drop. This time, heavier. No stealth. The air itself screamed as larger carriers tore through the sky. The ground shook as shock troops deployed, their armor thunderous, their weapons glowing with volatile energy. Voss checked her HUD. 30 hostiles. Her fingers tightened around her rifle. "We go loud," she said. This time, the humans didn't vanish. They struck hard and fast, moving like a single mind. Mines detonated beneath alien boots. Sniper fire from impossible angles punched through elite armor. One of the Xel'Zorr tried to adapt, deploying a gravity well, and was promptly shredded by a drone swarm summoned from Voss's wrist. Then the aliens saw the face of true terror, not brute strength, but relentless, clinical precision. The kind born not from conquest, but from survival. 17 minutes later, silence reclaimed the mountain. Far above, Sarek listened to the final screams of his second assault force. His fists shook. Not in rage. In dawning comprehension. Velth stood behind him, pale for his kind. "They weren't even regular soldiers," he whispered. "Intel says this was a scout unit." Sarek's eyes burned, but no words came. Because suddenly, he didn't want to know what the rest of Earth's forces looked like. And Earth was watching. The debriefing chamber aboard the Gravethorn was built for ceremony and control. High-vaulted ceilings, deep shadows, and a podium engineered to dwarf the speaker's audience. But today, no grandeur could shield Commander Sarek from the disquiet murmuring through the ranks. The chamber buzzed with unease. The air tasted sharp with the copper scent of dread. Sarek stepped forward, eyes heavy with the weight of his fleet's humiliation. Behind him, strategist Velth projected the recovered visuals from the battlefield. Blurred, flickering fragments played across the air, human shapes moving at unnatural speed, alien soldiers screaming as their suits were breached with surgical efficiency. The footage ended abruptly in static. "These are your warriors," Sarek growled. "Veterans of 12 systems. Shredded by 6 humans." No one dared speak. But the silence was not reverence, it was disbelief, and something darker. One of the officers, General Harzik, finally broke the quiet. "Our soldiers were not prepared. They lacked the appropriate intelligence, the environmental calibration. They died with their weapons loaded and their armor intact," Velth cut in. "And yet they didn't even fire in some cases. Many were dead before they knew they were under attack." He adjusted the projection. A freeze frame of a human operative flashed before them. Sergeant Voss, maskless, her expression cold, eyes calm. Alien eyes flinched away from her image. "They weren't soldiers," another voice whispered from the back. "They were wraiths." Sarek dismissed the visuals with a wave. "This isn't superstition. We must understand the truth." Velth brought up a new array, diagrams, intercepted signals, fragments of human network transmissions. "We have reason to believe the unit we encountered was not even part of Earth's formal military. It was a reconnaissance team, an advanced scout group likely used for testing enemy strength." Sarek stared. "They tested us." Velth nodded. "Successfully." No one laughed. The chamber remained still as gravity. Meanwhile, across the lower decks, the Gravethorn's infirmary overflowed with the wounded. One soldier, Captain YRNN, writhed on a med pallet, his carapace splintered from a pulse blade wound. His translator gurgled as he spoke, but his message was clear. "They didn't talk. They didn't breathe. I shot one in the chest and it kept coming." The medic tried to calm him, but YRNN clutched the edge of the table, claws gouging the surface. "It looked at me like it had already decided how I would die." Down the corridor, similar reports mounted. Entire units spoke of hallucinations, seeing multiple enemies where there was only one. Some claimed they heard voices in their heads, felt pain before the strikes landed. Rumors grew, passed in hushed tones. The humans had technology that bent perception. Or perhaps it wasn't technology at all. In the intelligence wing, Velth consulted with the infiltration team recently returned from a stealth probe on Earth. They had embedded briefly within human data networks, enough to collect fragments of cultural logs, media files, and encoded strategies. One of the infiltrators, a pale, thin creature named Kazakh, stood shivering. "Their media, it is filled with violence. War strategies disguised as entertainment. Training simulations masked as fiction." Velth scowled. "Explain." "They imagine war constantly. Entire societies simulate planetary destruction daily for leisure. They have icons, heroes, that make genocide look righteous. We thought it was myth." Velth sifted through the findings. He saw it now. Decades of human literature, film, gaming, strategy. A culture forged in the fantasy of extinction. A people who romanticized warfare to the point of obsession. Not because they longed for death, but because they had danced with it too often to fear it. "We mistook their chaos for weakness," he murmured. "But it's training. Generational, psychological conditioning masked as dysfunction." In the command chamber, Sarek read the growing reports. A pattern emerged. The humans responded faster than predicted, with greater coordination than their fractured governments implied. Worse, their scouts exhibited behavioral data that defied standard warfare metrics, adaptability that couldn't be programmed, instincts honed by something other than doctrine. "We've awakened something," he said aloud. Velth arrived with new data. "Commander, there's more. During our infiltration, we picked up a phrase used in one of their secure channels. Translated loosely, Scout Unit Echo is just the first domino." Sarek's jaw tensed. "Then we are not seeing the whole board." "No, Commander. We're not even seeing the players." The implications hung in the air like a toxin. Later that cycle, in his private quarters, Sarek reviewed the footage again, frame by frame. He watched Sergeant Voss drive a blade through an elite officer's chest with unflinching precision. He studied the silent communication between squad members, their effortless synchrony, their apparent absence of emotion. These were not berserkers. These were not soldiers drunk on battle frenzy. They were professionals. And Earth had more of them. The door chimed. Velth entered with a message cube. "From the outer systems, sir. Allied fleets are hesitating to reinforce. Whispers have reached them. They're afraid." Sarek accepted the cube, his claws tightening around it. "Of what?" he asked. Veltha's expression shifted. "Not of Earth. Of the idea that we never really understood what humanity was." Sarek nodded slowly. The war was no longer about conquest. It had become something else. A lesson, written in blood, carried in silence, and whispered across stars. You don't test a predator by poking it. You don't mistake shadow for absence. And you never, ever underestimate a species that has fought itself for millennia and survived. Not when you've only brought an army. Not when all you've faced is a scout. The moon hung quietly above the planet it had guarded for eons, but on its far side, hidden beneath layers of reflective camouflage and magnetic distortion, something ancient stirred. The Lunar Command Bastion activated its primary relays, and Project Spectre was green-lit with a single word whispered through encrypted quantum channels: Initiate. Sergeant Elena Voss stood in a hollowed bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean, still wearing the black armor of Scout Unit Echo, but her role had shifted. The ghosts had done their part. Now came the wolves. "Commands authorizing engagement across multiple theaters," said Major Rafik Chen, her former handler, now dressed in a clean uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's Unified Defense Directive. He slid a retinal tablet across the table. "Full-scale countermeasures. You're heading back up." Voss's fingers hesitated for only a second before she took the tablet. Data streamed across it, ship deployments, orbital strikes, confirmed Xel'Zorr positions. Earth wasn't just defending anymore. It was hunting. "What about extraction protocols?" she asked. Chen met her gaze. "We don't extract. We leave messages." On the edge of Jupiter's orbit, the Xel'Zorr had regrouped. Scarred ships drifted in wary formation, wounded yet vengeful. Reinforcements had arrived, heavy carriers, dreadnoughts, a new war leader named Xel'Zorr, who dismissed Sarek's cautious strategy as cowardice. Xel'Zorr didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in firepower. He would learn. The humans struck first. Not with fanfare or declarations, but with silence. Entire hangars were emptied mid-cycle. Crew members vanished between one heartbeat and the next. Emergency lights flickered to reveal bloody glyphs drawn in unknown patterns, messages for which there were no translators. Voss and her new strike team moved through the darkness aboard the alien dreadnought Scourge of Galton. Her boots made no sound, her breath barely fogged the air. With her were 6 others, each enhanced in ways the Xel'Zorr could never quantify: neural feedback loops, adaptive reflex implants, biomechanical cloaking fields. Weapons were tools. They were the storm. They planted mines on fuel cells, hacked command pathways, embedded viruses into navigation cores. They weren't there to conquer. They were there to dismantle the will to fight. Xel'Zorr finally saw them in combat, just long enough to realize he would not survive it. He fought with the fury of his kind, bellowing orders and swinging energy blades forged in the gravity forges of Helix V. He died 3 seconds after locating Voss in the crowd, 2 shots to his centermass, 1 to his voice box, and a knife where no armor covered. Voss didn't wait to confirm. She never did. The enemy's morale shattered the moment he fell. In orbit around Saturn, the Battle of the Rings began without warning. The Xel'Zorr fleet had taken position in the shadow of Titan, believing the thick magnetic storms would protect them from detection. They didn't account for Earth's deep space stealth vessels. 1,000 pinpricks of light tore across the vacuum as Earth's second fleet decloaked, sleek cruisers that seemed to materialize from the void itself, silent as death. They launched kinetic spears instead of lasers, bypassing energy shields entirely. EMP bursts crippled alien targeting systems. In minutes, what had been a battle formation turned into a graveyard. On the lead cruiser Umbra, Commander Kira Holt watched the chaos unfold with a surgeon's detachment. Her command console pulsed with data streams, but her attention remained locked on a single vector, Scout Unit Echo, en route to breach the alien flagship once again. "They'll try to run," her lieutenant said. "No," Holt replied. "They'll beg." Down below, in the heart of the alien command vessel, Voss moved through fire and ruin. She had taken 3 hits, 1 to her side, another grazing her helmet, and a third that left a burn scar across her wrist. She didn't slow. Her squad fell around her, holding back the last defenders, ensuring she reached the core. Inside, she planted the last message. A simple beacon. One the aliens would trace. One they'd follow, thinking it a rally point. But it would bring them to Earth's trap, and when they arrived, there would be no speeches, no ultimatums. Only silence. The humans disappeared as suddenly as they came. Ships cloaked, signals died. The stars were quiet again. Above the wreckage, in the remnants of what had once been a proud fleet, the last Xel'Zorr commander drifted in a damaged escape pod. He stared at the Earth on the horizon, its blue glow now seeming less like a promise and more like a warning. "We only fought their scouts," he whispered to himself. The words stuck in his throat, half prayer, half admission. "What else do they have?" Behind him, engines hummed. A human retrieval ship appeared, sleek and black, its insignia unreadable to any alien mind. It made no move to fire. It simply watched. And then it vanished. The stars no longer shimmered with promise for the Xel'Zorr. They burned now, scars on a sky that once held only conquest. Across their empire, tremors of fear rippled through command chambers, propaganda halls, even sacred enclaves. Silence was spreading, and it carried Earth's name like a plague. Yet, no formal declaration had ever come. No unified demand. Just the whisper of ghosts and the weight of missing fleets. In the deepest war chamber of the Xel'Zorr High Conclave, the Grand Strategium convened. 13 warminds formed a circle around the crystalline core that pulsed with ancient knowledge. Sarek, bruised in spirit and stripped of command, stood before them, summoned not for his failure, but for what he had seen. "You faced their vanguard," said the prime strategist, its voice layered with 1,000 others. "You survived. Speak." Sarek's eyes flickered. "They weren't a vanguard. They weren't even military. They were a test." Murmurs. Tension. "Then Earth misled us." "No," Sarek replied. "We misled ourselves." He stepped forward, trembling not with fear but with revelation. "They are not the fractured primitives our scans suggested. They do not prepare for war, they live it. Their unity is not structural. It is existential. When threatened, they don't align under command, they align under instinct." He activated a holoshard, displaying captured footage of Voss and her team. Not one of the warminds blinked. "They call that squad Echo, but they are not the sound. They are the warning." Another strategist leaned in. "You believe this? Species cannot be beaten?" "I believe we haven't seen what they truly are yet," Sarek said. "We fought a scouting party. And we bled." The chamber dimmed, absorbing his words. Half a galaxy away, Sergeant Elena Voss stood in the ruins of an abandoned Xel'Zorr outpost. The cold air carried the scent of ozone and ash. Behind her, the last survivors of Scout Unit Echo were silent, marking the end of their campaign with quiet reflection, not celebration. They had seen too much to rejoice. A message came through her comms, direct channel, High encryption. Not a mission briefing. Not a recall order. Just coordinates. And a time. Chen's voice followed. They're preparing to talk. Or surrender. Hard to tell which. You're being sent in to listen. Voss gave no reply. She looked at the planet beneath her boots, then toward the stars. Somewhere out there, the Xel'Zorr were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humanity. Hours later, aboard a neutral station carved from an asteroid, she walked into a chamber lined with guards from both sides. The atmosphere was tense, as if reality itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Across the table, one of the Xel'Zorr envoys, a decorated tactician named Vilek, stood stiffly, his armor still scorched from a battle fought too recently. He stared at her, searching for weakness. He found none. You led the strike teams, he asked. I led a team, she corrected. You dismantled our fleet. I followed instructions. There was a pause. Then, quietly, how many like you are there? Voss didn't blink. Enough. Vilek absorbed that. We didn't come to speak terms of surrender. I didn't come for surrender, she replied. I came to confirm you've stopped pretending we're a simple species. His mouth curled in what might have been a smile, or a flinch. What are you really? He asked. Voss considered her answer. She thought of Earth, not its weapons, not its armies, but its people. The billions living under constant threat, the histories soaked in struggle, the art born of trauma, the humor that persisted through it all. We're the species that plans for peace and trains for extinction, she said. We don't start wars. But we end them. Vilek's eyes narrowed. And what if we return? In 10 years? 100? 1,000? She leaned forward. Then you'll find we've only gotten better at defending ourselves. And worse at forgiving. Silence settled between them, thick and final. Somewhere deep in the station, a transmission was sent, undisclosed, unmarked. The Xel'Zorr had made a decision. Not peace, but pause. They needed time. To rebuild. To rethink. To fear. Voss rose to leave. As she walked out, Vilek spoke once more. Is it true, he asked, that you were only scouts? She stopped at the threshold. We weren't even the first. Then she was gone. Above them, the stars waited. Watching. Unmoved. But somewhere, on Earth, in space, in silence, preparations continued. Just in case the galaxy needed another reminder.